Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have TJS George with Sashi Kumar. This is about TJS George's new book, The Dismantling of India. Acclaimed for his widely historical pan-Asian version, George brings this far-flung experience to a compulsively readable new book, The Dismantling of India. It is the story of India told in 35 concise biographies, beginning with J.R.D. Tata and ending with Narendra Modi. Sashi Kumar, of course, print and broadcast journalist, filmmaker, and media entrepreneur with plenty of accolades to his name. Let's welcome them on stage. TJS George with Sashi Kumar. Thank you.
Thank you and good afternoon. This session is all about a person who most of you have read, who of course needs no introduction in that sense, who has played a transformative role in many ways in the way we understand the events of our times, the way we understand the, shall we say, movers and shakers of our times in a demystified, deconstructed manner. This is TJS George, and the book we are speaking about is a collection of his articles, essays, columns over a period of time, which are personality-oriented at one level, in the sense that they are pegged on a particular person or a couple of people in some cases, in some chapters, but they actually traverse a period of our history, the period of our history that these persons lived in and acted in and played a role in and made decisive, shall we say, brought in decisive policy measures and so on and so forth. Nothing, in a sense, really escapes TJS's eye, and proof of that is the way he's able to distill all of this and give us the kind of articles, columns, very characteristic of his style, in crisp, brisk, fast-moving storytelling language. At the same time, where it's simple but not simplistic, where details and nuances are there, between the lines, where you capture the essential identity, the essential characteristics, the behavioral patterns of particular individuals who make a difference to our lives in our social context. And the book we are speaking about is, of course, The Dismantling of India, as it's called. That's the title of this collection of essays. And it's really a proud privilege for me to be able to interact with TJS George on this occasion. I have followed him for a long time. I've read most of his columns. I've read some of his work. I've read his biographies, for instance, Krishna Menon, Lee Kuan Yew, M.S. Subbulakshmi. I've not read the one on Nargis and maybe one other which he's written. And they are, again, I think, very, very astute insights, incisive insights into people whom all of us know. And yet, when you read him, we know we didn't know this aspect or that aspect of this or that person. That, I think, is the uniqueness of the man. And so I'm going to, TJS, it's wonderful to have him here for more than one reason, because the organizers of the festival were telling me that TJS, we don't know whether he'll finally agree to be on stage. And so now that he's here, he's become captive literally in front of us. I can say this, because he really fights shy of this kind of limelight or floodlight, but so it's also a rare, fortunate event for us to have him here with us. I'm going to begin by telling him, now that he's written all about this, and it looks like he's not in the thick of it, in the sense that you're not chasing deadlines in terms of a column every week as you used to. When you look back at all that you've done, your body of work, writing, particularly on contemporary events, what's happened, also your biopics, if you like, or biographies of some characters who, for some reason or the other, you felt compelled to write about. Has it been worth it? What is it that you feel about your body of work? I know this is a very difficult question, but what is it that propelled you to write as you did? And when you look back, what is it that you're feeling happy about? And what is it that you feel you should have probably done more, or you would rather not have done?
All I know is how to sit down in a corner and write columns which appear in newspapers. Things like this scare me. Therefore, I have some problems when I come across audiences like you. I don't know how to put things across. I feel much better if I sit in a small corner where nobody sees me and where I can write and that appears in print, then I'm all right, then I'm comfortable. But that is my weakness, or I don't know if it's weakness or strength or whatever it is, but that is how I've been brought up professionally. I think that creates its own problems, but I enjoy it that way, and therefore I have no complaints.
You begin this book, or the compilation begins. This is probably not in the order that you wrote them. It begins with J.R.D. Tata, and then, of course, it traverses many figures, many well-known figures, public figures, and it ends with Modi, and finally, with Amit Shah, and then finally with Narendra Modi. There are some people you are less critical about. There are some people you are more critical about. But that's natural. So one of the characteristics, I think, is there's no clinical, sanitized objectivity in what he's writing. I think there is a kind of value judgment, maybe too strong a term, but you do assess people, you do evaluate what people have done. How do you do it on the basis of what's happened, or is there go ahead.
I don't know how to respond to this, but all I can say is that I have no special prejudices against any particular people. And I also keep a very impartial, balanced outlook. I write about M.S. Lakshmi. I also write about Amit Shah. Two worlds apart. I think I would like to see that is how journalists should go about their job, without getting partial, without promoting this cause or that cause, this individual or that individual. I think if the journalist is honest to himself, he will be impartial, and that, I think, is what readers expect.
So, do you think objectivity is a desirable quality in journalism, or is it more about being even-handed or impartial, as you said? Is it desirable to be objective in a world of inequalities?
Well, that's not how I would like to put it. But if I can write impartially about M.S. Lakshmi, and then impartially about Lee Kuan Yew, who is a dictator, and then impartially about present, I don't want to mention their names, the present rulers of our beloved country. If I can do all these things in a way that I'm happy about professionally, I think that's good enough for me. And I hope that is good enough for my readers as well.
Would it be right to say that you're fascinated by people and personalities? Of course, also by events, but would it be right to say that you talk about what's happening around you in a particular context by using personalities, people as a peg? And would that be a right way of characterizing your approach to understanding your environment, your context?
No, I'm a working journalist working in a newspaper. And what I write is writing for that particular week or that particular month or whatever it is. So there is a contemporaneity about what I write. And there's no escape from that. So subject to that condition influences what I write, the subjects that I choose, and the people that I choose in a very substantial kind of way. I was very happy to write about M.S. Lakshmi or Nargis, but I'm not exactly happy about writing about our present great rulers. I shall not mention names for the sake of Shashi.
No, yes, but that's in fact one of the questions that I had. At least in this compilation, I'm not suggesting this is definitive. In this compilation, you do speak about various leaders. You speak about leaders, national leaders, regional leaders. For instance, I find that you have almost unqualified praise for Anna Dore. but not so about any of the others in the Dravidian movement, certainly not about Karunanidhi, not about Jayalalitha, not about MGR, and so on. Likewise, of course, you are obviously critical about Modi and Shah and the current regime. But you don't say much about Indira Gandhi and Rajiv Gandhi. You talk about what happened during their time. You talk about crony capitalism. You talk about business people who made money. You speak about bureaucracy. You speak about the old industrial capitalists and the new IT capitalists and all of that. But it's less personalized when it comes to Indira Gandhi and Rajiv. Is that pure coincidence? I mean, one can't expect a formula in everything you do. But I just thought I'll flag this.
Let me raise a simple question. 50 years from now, will Rahul Gandhi matter? 50 years from now, even Indira Gandhi, will she matter? But 50 years from now, 100 years from now, Annadure will matter. Why? Because Annadure came up with a philosophy which was new at that time. The Tamil identity. He was not being partisan in a narrow-minded way, but he created the personality of Tamil identity in a creative way, and thereby making us think about that. When you think about it, yes, Tamil tradition has an identity which is linguistic, but which has a character of its own, a validity of its own. For him to understand that and project it was a brave thing on his part, but those of us who look at that and read that and think about it must know that he was being very original. He was not being just a narrow-minded Tamil politician, but he was being a thinker. That is what made Annadure different from other politicians of his time.
So even as you write for the week, since you say you're a working journalist and you're it's almost thinking on your feet in some cases, it does happen that some of these pieces transcend time, they become durable, they become eternal. I mean, and most of these pieces are of that kind. So you must have an intuitive sense of what is enduring and what is not, right?
That's a very important point. What is enduring? The present great leaders that we have today, are they going to endure? I have my doubts. 50 years from now, how many people will remember the present Prime Minister or the present Home Minister? Whereas somebody like Annadure is remembered, and somebody like the earliest leaders that we had there, they are remembered. What do the leaders contribute to history? That is the question. In my opinion, the present leaders contribute to history this much.
To give you a sense of the way he appraises or evaluates a person, in all honesty, in a candid manner, for instance, about Rahul Gandhi, he begins by quoting Walt Disney about the creation of Donald Duck. In the context of creation of Donald Duck, Walt Disney apparently said, "Growing old is mandatory, growing up is optional." So and he relates that to Rahul Gandhi. But to be fair, while that's the opening knock, he recognizes that as he progresses, he seems to mature politically, that he becomes feisty, he becomes tough. The Rahul Gandhi of 2017 is different from the Rahul Gandhi of 2019, where, as George says, he's at his fighting best. He calls him that. And then he decides he must resign as the president of the Congress party and decides that he will not take that post. And this is work in progress. I mean, what he's doing now, there's a Bharat Jodo Yatra and going on. I'm tempted to ask you, because that is, the last word has not been said on it. It seems the jury is out on it. Would you update your estimate of Rahul Gandhi now in the light of what might have happened?
Since I have no political ambitions, I can answer that question honestly.
Yes.
No, I will not revise my opinion about Rahul Gandhi. I don't think he will matter at all. In a short time, he will become, I think, irrelevant.
That's interesting. It's an eclectic mix. In some ways, the essays in this collection are eclectic because you have not just leaders, You have not just well-known people, you have Rana Ayub, you have Umar Khalid, you have people like, young student fighters. So what is it that makes you choose them? Is it that those who are rebels with a cause? Is it that they go against the grain of the ordinary or of the times? What is it that attracts to a person to spend time and profile the person or write about the person?
Now, how do I answer a question like that? It's difficult. It's difficult to answer without sitting down and thinking about it. All I can say is that in the short term, maybe these things don't matter. I pick and choose people on the basis of what I think what they have to contribute. The people I have chosen for this, they go from J.R.D. Tata. Well, with people like J.R.D. Tata and so on, what they have contributed, I don't think there's any need to debate about that or question that. But later on, when you come to the latter part, you mentioned some names which for diplomatic reasons, I will not repeat. But those people, what have they contributed? What are they contributing now? They enjoy power, yes. They sit in seats of power, but what do they contribute? I don't think they are contributing anything that will be lasting.
At the same time, what's, I think, striking about Mr. George, at least for me, is that while he's certainly, that he's against a particular person and what a particular person has stood for, has done, the reverence is disarming. It's almost a disarming irreverence. It's not offensive. It's not rude. For instance, I must, the way he characterizes Amit Shah, who, of course, he doesn't admire. He's not an admirer of Amit Shah. He, first of all, explodes the myth that although he's called the Iron Fist, and there have been comparisons with Sardar Patel, you say that's nonsense. You literally explode that.
I think Sardar Patel deserves better.
Absolutely. And then he goes on to, put it in very simple language. He says, a man to be feared rather than respected, the kind of guy you wouldn't want to run into in a dark street corner. Now, this is a very, very nice and easygoing way of putting it. This is what I think makes it. Do you resort to humor when you think that serves you better than actually a direct, offensive, adversarial kind of comment?
Running into somebody dangerous around the corner at night is not humor.
Yes. I knew that was coming, yes. Yes, I agree. But here's some humor. For instance, there's a chapter on Veerappan, for instance, And Veerappan is someone who has captured not just the imagination of India, but the imagination of the world. And Mr. George has also tackled Veerappan. And he starts somewhere in the beginning, he says, and I quote him, he says, for a man who made a living by robbing, killing, and taking captives for ransom, Veerappan shockingly developed the profile of a folk hero. A man who killed 184 people, poached 200 elephants, and felled 1,000 sandalwood trees, etc., etc. So, and then there's this wonderful, quaint kind of area in that where he goes into what kind of a brand Veerappan's moustache was, and I remember, and he says, which I didn't know. I mean, I don't know where he gets these facts from. In 2015, a foreign cosmetic company called Lush marketed Veerappan's moustache wax. They created a thing called Veerappan's moustache wax at $15.95 for an 8-gram jar. But of course, this was short-lived because when there was an outcry against this, saying that it's glorifying the bandit, they discontinued the manufacture of this.
Look, at least give me credit for the kind of research that I do.
Absolutely. But on Veerappan, it's interesting, but while you commend the police force, the STF, and particularly K. Vijay Kumar, who headed the STF, which finally, shall we say, cornered the brigand and killed him, you give equal credence to the other theories that that was not probably how it happened, that it's too neat a story, as I think you use the word neat. You used it's too neat a story. Is that still your sense about what might have happened?
Say that
You said the way Veerappan came to his end, the way, the construct of the STF, of say Vijay Kumar's catching a brigand, is too neat a story.
I don't remember the details now, but if I'm not mistaken, I think I gave the circumstances that made Veerappan Veerappan. So probably something has to do with, maybe it applies to all of us. We are what we are because of the circumstances in which we grow, the kind of background that we have, the kind of society we deal with. Maybe that influences our own development. Same thing happened to Veerappan. Let's understand that.
And of course, he continues and says how his descendants, his children, one of his younger daughters, in fact, joins the BJP with 1,000 others from other political parties. So it's almost as if a circle is being fulfilled there.
Did you say Veerappan's family joined BJP?
Yes, his younger daughter.
Interesting,
Yes.
interesting. That's all I say.
That's what you said in the book. To some of the lighter moments in some of the articles, for instance, this whole thing about Bangalore becoming Bangalore and the use of you. He said it's Anandamurthy who set it going, and of course, it's not just Bangalore. Madras has become Chennai, and Bombay has become Mumbai. You obviously prefer the older names, like many people do. But what's interesting is he then goes on to cite Dhanush, the actor-singer in Tamil, the film star, who has sang the song, "Why this Kolavari, Kolavari, Kolavari do?" And then he cites a number of things that he says as part of that song, where the word "you" keeps recurring. So it's fascinating how you cover all this ground. You watch movies, you watch films, you're aware of all that happens, and how you keep yourself at the cutting edge in terms of what's happening here and now.
Well, you're finally coming to understand the hard life columnists live. It's not easy to understand all these things. It's not easy to comprehend and follow these things, but we somehow manage.
Let me come to J.R.D. Tata is another person, I think, who gets away very lightly lightly in the sense of, you have more compliment. I don't think there's anything bad you have to say about him. You see him as one of the builders of India, visionary builder of India, not just of Air India, but also, Tata Institute of Social Sciences, Atomic Energy, and so on and so forth. And the last chapter is about, of course, Modi. And naturally, you are critical about Modi, and that's well known. In your columns as well, that comes across. But you speak here about more in terms of understanding the man and what you see as a kind of obsessive ostentation, an obsessive ego, if you like, and his sartorial ostentation, his dress, his diet, mushrooms which cost some unimaginable price, and so on and so forth. And the fact, and also tongue-in-cheek, talk about the books, about his educational qualifications and the books he's written, as well as, in the same breath, or in the next breath, about the number of books written about him, most of which are, panegyristic in that sense. And then you contrast this with the characterization or the certificate that the foreign press has given him, from the Washington Post, the New York Times, the New Yorker, even economic, the ET, and FT, Financial Times, and so on and so forth. And that's a stark contrast, and you leave it there. Just any comment on that?
No, I was very impressed when I read somewhere that our beloved Prime Minister made himself a coat with stripes that said Amar Das, whatever Das, Modi. It takes imagination and guts to do that kind of thing. Not just money, but to have your name imprinted like a design on your clothes. what do you call that? Lack of ego? Maybe, yeah.
Absolutely. And there are a number of others in the book that he talks about. There's P. Lal. He speaks about Lal as both a publisher, as someone who finds new talent, the writer's workshop. It's a pretty long piece that you've written about Lal. Would you like to...
Which Lal?
The writer, the publisher, P. Lal. Yeah, P. Lal.
Yeah, you see, in the course of ours is a big country and big history. In the course of this big history, a lot of individuals who do brave things, unofficially do things in their own way. There are many of them we don't even notice. P. Lal is one of those people, quietly sitting in a corner of Calcutta, I think. He did things which nobody noticed at that time. But what he did was very original, very creative, very contributing to the culture of our country. People like that must be known, and I think all I did was to bring attention to that up.
Great. Vajpayee is another person he talks about. I think you are even-handed about Vajpayee. I don't think you're in awe of him. At the same time, you see some merit in him.
Yeah.
In fact, you, if I might call it cleverly, quote his poem and bring it to bear on the current situation, where he says, "Darkness in the middle of the day." Vajpayee is said to have said sometime, and he said, you seem to suggest we are living through that kind of situation now. Looking back, would you say that Vajpayee, and we have had two BJP kind of eras, shall we say, Vajpayee era and now the Modi era. What would you say as a big stark difference between the two?
Vajpayee was, they both belonged to the same party, but Vajpayee was bigger than the party.
Yeah, go ahead.
Vajpayee was bigger than the party. He had a personality of his own, he had a mind of his own. He rose above his party, which the other friend did not.
Thank you. So we are running out of time. I just have one last quick question. In your introduction to this book, where you explain the context of the articles, you end with this intriguing sentence, the story of the individual helps us to understand melancholy as well.
Which book is this?
This book. In your introduction, you say. Why melancholy as well?
Well, offhand I can't remember,
All right.
but there must be some reason, otherwise I won't write such a nice sentence.
So there is TJS George in all his characteristic vigor for you. Thank you very much. Thank you.